Hello, friends. Welcome to the latest episode of Social Harmony. Today, I'm joined by Jess Marie. She is the driving force behind Unapologetic Life Coaching. She's also the host of her podcast, Unapologetically Overcoming. And I've got to say, I resonate with her work on so many levels. Like today was the first time I've talked to her, but you know when you speak with somebody, you just get what they're about. You just click with how they do things, and you just seem to chime on so many levels. And that's how I feel about Jess. Listening to her podcast, which I'm going to push forward on my own pages, I really got a lot from it. Both from Jess's work herself and from the guests that she speaks with, because also she's a fan of having the hard conversations, giving you a space to talk safely about a lot of times the things that you may not be overly proud of, you may not be happy with, or the bits that you just want to keep to yourself. So with that in mind, please enjoy this episode with Jess. Like I said, please go over and check out her work as well. I hope that it impacts you as positively as me. But let's get started with this episode. Thanks for tuning in. Hello everyone, welcome to the latest episode of Social Harmony. Today I am joined by Jess. She is the driving force behind Unapologetic Life Coaching and host of Unapologetically Overcoming podcast. So if I can pass it over to you, Jess, can you let my listeners know just a little bit about you? Who are you? What do you do?
Sure. Well, as you said, I am the host of the podcast Unapologetically Overcoming. I am also a life coach, but outside of that, I am a mom to a teenage son. My full-time and part-time jobs are working with the homeless population. And I just recently started incorporating grief coaching into my life coaching services as part of something that I offer to support those who are going through the grief process. And I'm very excited to be here today. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to this because, like I messaged you before, I've been listening to a couple of your episodes, and I don't know, you sort of get, I know what she were on about. Oh, I know what he's talking about. That bit of excitement in something. So I thought, yeah, I like this. Well, I suppose, yeah, in your work, you allude to, well, you've been through some shit. You've got your own backstory on things. Can I ask you to give us a bit of an insight into that, please?
Sure. So I'll try to give you the abbreviated version because there's a lot.
Oh,
and we could be here for longer than an hour.
Yeah, no problem.
So after I had my son, I was diagnosed with postpartum depression. And at that point in my life, I started taking antidepressant medication and things like that. And looking back, like before I was pregnant with my son, I think that I was depressed earlier in my life, and I just didn't know what it was. There wasn't really not that there wasn't a word for it, but it wasn't something, mental health wasn't something that people talked about a ton, back before I had my son.
Yeah.
So I was diagnosed with the postpartum depression. I was off and on medication for a very long time after that, and then was later diagnosed with depression and anxiety. I also was diagnosed with an eating disorder probably around 13 or 14 years ago. I have also been in a domestic violence relationship, which I have been out of for several years now. And most recently, I think the most traumatic thing that I have experienced is the sudden death of my younger sister. So all of those things combined have, made me the person that I am today, but also made me able to help other people who are going through similar things that I have gone through.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing I felt, like I said just now, when I was listening to the episodes, there was a lot that was relatable. Maybe the stories are different, the main
Hmm.
narrative and what have you, but there's little bits and pieces in there, and I think, yeah, I've had similar. I can pick up on that, and I think that's why I resonated so well with the unapologetically aspect of what you do, because fuck, I don't know about you. I've spent so many years feeling apologetic just for
Uh-huh.
just for being. You
Yeah.
think you're too much or you're not enough or
Mhm.
whatever it is, and you get to a point where you're like, nah, no more. And
Yeah.
that's what that's I think what I really resonated. So I mean, if I can ask you, at what point did this kind of crystallize? Like I said, you've been through some things that,
Mhm.
you know, well, they take you to places, don't they? And then you have the moments.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the turning point for me was when I ended that relationship that I was in. I
Mm,
had spent so
mm,
many years of my life kind of living for someone else, making sure that they were happy and that, they were good. And I wasn't focusing on me and my happiness
mm,
and what I needed. And when that relationship ended, it was a huge eye opener for me because in it, I didn't realize how focused I was on the other person. It wasn't until I was
mm.
out of it that I was like, oh my gosh, like it's time
Yeah.
to put me first. And I think,
Mm,
as humans, but especially as a woman, um, it's often thought to be selfish to put ourselves first and to do
mm.
things for ourselves. So,
Yeah.
taking that step was also a big game changer for me. Um,
Mm,
and just recognizing that, like, in order for me to be a good mother to my son, a good
hmm.
friend, a good sister, a good daughter, insert any word there, I have
Yeah.
to put myself first. I have to do things that
Mm,
make me happy and fill my own cup because if I don't, I can't do that for anyone else. So I think that was the
yeah.
big turning point for me.
Mm. Yeah, I can resonate. And yeah, because I remember, like, and I've mentioned it on a few previous episodes. I got out of my, well, I say I got out of my marriage. That sounds awful, doesn't it? My marriage ended, and then
Mhm.
a few months later, I mean, I got into a place, and a friend of mine, he sort of said, what are you going to do with your life now? And I genuinely didn't know
Yeah.
because I felt, well, it wasn't like I was in an abuse situation. It's not that, but
Mhm.
whether it's just a character thing or yeah, just whatever it was, I don't feel I'd put my needs first. It was always, about something else, or it was me trying
Yeah.
to be what I thought other people wanted or expected or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, I sort of came to that point, that crux where you're like, no, actually, it's my time now. It's my turn.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
can, yeah, I can definitely feel what you're saying. So I mean, so you're at that point, you've just had that, like, right, I need to make it about me. What was step one? How did you go about doing that?
Um, I think just taking care of myself and just doing things that
Mm,
I enjoy doing. And maybe they were
mm,
things that, I didn't get to do a ton before, or they were things that I had never done before.
yeah.
Just doing things that brought myself joy. Whether it was,
Mm,
going out with friends, spending time with family, traveling, like anything like that.
mm,
It just finding things to do that brought me joy. And the other
mm,
thing too that was really big for me, and I talk about this a lot on the podcast that I'm on, is gratitude practices. Um,
mm-hmm,
that was also a huge game changer for me. Just recognizing that no matter what else is going on, no matter how
mm,
horrible things are, there is always something to be grateful for. And that was a hard one for me because there were times
mm.
when things were real bad and I
Yeah.
was like, there's everything is wrong, everything's going horribly, like there's not possibly
Mm,
anything I can be grateful for, but there always is. And it can be the
yeah.
littlest thing, it doesn't have to be a huge thing. It can be the littlest thing, but
Mm,
just taking moments in your day to recognize the things that you are grateful for is definitely,
Hmm.
it's a shift, and it causes things to shift after you make
Yeah.
the change.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you. I found once I started making these little small incremental changes, it seemed to snowball quite a bit.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, if I can look at it, well, like you said then about gratitude. I mean, yeah, when I, became single again, I went down the self-help route, but I think I did it
Mhm.
wrong in that basically I just tried to fully take on wholesale. Like, I don't know,
Uh-huh.
Jay Shetty writes a book, and then I'm
Yeah.
thinking, oh, I need to do that. So it was just like
Uh-huh.
a personality transplant from one to the other. And
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's because I was in, an unhappy state of mind or an incomplete state or whatever, and I just wanted to get to happy, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And yeah, it took a while. I mean, I've never been one for that sort of positive vibes only.
Hmm.
I do believe that you can't walk around with your painted on smile all day, because I've done that for
Right.
fucking years, and
Yeah.
it ends
Yeah.
in a bad place.
Uh-huh.
So trying to, yeah, just, I think, turn it around, because like you say about gratitude, then it was one, and I'll also tie it back to what you said about the feeling bad about looking after you.
Hmm.
Growing up, we always got that sort of, oh, there's always people that have it worse. Oh, there's other kids that ain't got what you got.
Yes.
That sort of guilt
Yes.
way of doing it,
Uh-huh.
rather than, you know, oh, well, I've got this, so I shouldn't feel bad, into,
Mhm.
well, I've got this, so I'm rather glad about that. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe I
Yeah.
haven't got that, and I don't know. For the longest time as well, I put so much stock in the things that I had, the external validations, all that kind
Mhm.
of crap.
Yeah.
When now it doesn't matter, but it takes a long time to get there, doesn't it? There's
It
no
does.
no blueprint, that says
Nope.
do this, 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 and then you're all right.
Uh-huh. And like you said,
Hmm.
it doesn't happen overnight. And I think a lot of
Hmm.
times when people decide to make that shift, they
Hmm.
expect it to be like a light switch is flipped and
Yeah.
everything just is wonderful and sunshine and roses. And it doesn't work like that. Like you have
Hmm.
to be committed
Hmm.
to, the better side of things.
Yeah.
You have to take steps. You have to start thinking differently. It's not just going to fall in your lap. You
Yeah.
actually have to do things in order to make things happen that way. And I think that's where a lot of people think, they're just like, oh, I wake up today and everything is going to be great. And like everything is going to
Hmm.
be great. And sometimes it does happen that way because it is a mindset shift. But again, it's
Hmm.
not an overnight process. You have to put in the work as well. It's not just in the thoughts, it's in the work
Hmm.
that you do too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I got to, I don't know, I was just in some stage of being that if I've read the book, I've got the knowledge, therefore that's something that will just naturally follow. When, like I said, I was looking at it all wrong, and it was the little things that I had to do. I mean, the amount of times you see people, oh, I want to be this, I want to be that, whether it's I want to be famous, I want to be rich, but they don't
Uh-huh.
want the grind that it
Right.
takes to get there.
Yep.
And that's, yeah, I think as well, like, I realised much later after the fact, things like being vulnerable and stuff that you can't necessarily learn how to do, but
Mhm.
you've got to, I don't know quite what the word is, but you've got to get there somehow. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I
Yeah.
I think I had a pattern of thinking I'd nailed vulnerability. I've got this because I'd trot out some sad story from wherever it were, but it was
Mhm.
performative. And I mean, I genuinely thought, it wasn't, I was not being purposely duplicitous, but
Right.
looking back now, I didn't, I didn't have it at all. It's that, I think, letting go of that safety net sometimes to do the things and seeing what happens. I
Yeah.
think that's where I've really got some success. And another one, like you're saying about looking after yourself, learning how to say no, and then that be the end of
Yes.
it.
Yes.
You know, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like now, I don't know, these little things that I've picked up along the way, and I think now it's ironic in that I know more things, but I realise that I know nothing.
Yeah.
Not trying to sound like a Zen master or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this is. I mean, well, I suppose that's my path to it and what have you. I mean, was yours a similar kind of thing?
I definitely agree with what you just said about like saying no. Like, I love that phrase, no is a complete sentence, because again, I think so many times we think we have to be like, no, because, and give some
Mm,
explanation as to why the answer is no, when we don't need to do that.
mm,
No is an answer, it's a sentence, and that's it. We shouldn't have to give someone an explanation
yeah,
when the answer is no. So I definitely agree with that. And I
yeah,
also think, too, that, you know, showing up as yourself and being vulnerable, it's not an easy
mm,
thing to do. And, every time
mm,
I open up about something, it's not, it does get a little bit easier, but there are still some hesitations on my end sometimes. And I do it
mm,
all the time. Like, I have my own podcast, I'm on other
mm,
people's podcasts. I'm constantly talking about things that are vulnerable. And there are still
mm,
moments where I hesitate because I'm human. Just because I do
mm,
this and I talk about these hard things doesn't make me any less human than someone else who is experiencing something vulnerable. It's still not always easy to talk about, but the more
yeah,
you do it, the more you do anything, the more comfortable you become, the easier it becomes.
mm,
And, it's not ever going to be perfect, which again is something that, my platform is
mm,
all about, is not being perfect, showing up in the mess and embracing it.
mm, yeah. Yeah, I think that's definitely been a big part for me because I mean there were a lot. I don't know. Growing up, I tried to put out this front. This. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. It might not be that I know everything, but I won't get it wrong, and I'd never admit that I don't know something. That kind of bulletproof veneer, and that carried
Mm-hmm.
on until I was about 35, 40 year old, until I started getting a bit more self-awareness, and I
Mm-hmm.
suppose, yeah, just asking myself the hard questions that I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, that I were probably afraid of answering. I knew the answers to, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a similar thing, and that's partly why I started the podcasting thing myself. In that, I started to open up more and found that people responded well to that. I'm not talking
Mm-hmm.
about going doing some big trauma dump on some guy you meet at a bus stop, but
Yeah.
it's you know, how can I put it? I've always been a fan of, I don't give a shit about the small talk. Give me the big talk. You know,
Mm.
I
Yeah.
don't, I'm not bothered what your favourite meal is. I'm not bothered what your favourite colour is, but tell me the last time you ugly cried. Tell me what
Yes.
song makes you think of somebody that you miss. Things like
Mm-hmm.
that, real connection or whatever it is. And that's one I think ironically now I value the honesty and the openness so much more because I spent so many years being the opposite of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It
Mm,
does. It does. And I feel the same way because, again, when I was younger, I spent a lot of my time thinking I needed to show up in the world a certain way. And
mm,
like you said, act like I knew the things, and I was, I didn't ask questions because I was supposed to have all of the answers. And then there got a point in my life where I realized that it's okay to not have all the answers. We
mm.
never are going to have all the answers. Like,
Yes.
we continue to learn until we're no longer here on this earth. And if you
Mm,
stop learning, it's because it's the end. And I'm
yeah.
always going to ask the questions now, and I'm also going to show up as me. I'm not
Mm,
going to pretend to be someone that I'm not. And if who I am bothers someone, then they're not meant to
mm.
be in my circle, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one. I think that's another one that I've taken a few steps to. I'm not going to say get it right because now I'm at a point where I don't know if you ever get something like that right, but
Uh-huh.
again, trying to, how can I put it? Right, growing up, I didn't really have somebody modeling this stuff to me, so I'm trying to
Right.
trying to learn as I go, you
Yep.
know. And so if I say something like, how can I put? Okay, I'm going to be unapologetically me. But that would be me a lot of times being quite obnoxious or running my mouth, with that, oh, well, I'm just saying it like it is. But I
Uh-huh.
wasn't. I was just running my mouth without, thinking about it. I was
Yeah.
not taking other people into consideration. It was just
Mhm.
me. You know, I suppose, in a lot of ways, a kid in a bigger body. For that
Uh-huh.
respect, emotionally, I was, yeah,
Yeah.
my EQ was lower than crocodile piss. I'll tell you, because I didn't have much self awareness, and I was still
Uh-huh.
learning this stuff. Trying to. So
Mhm.
there was that aspect, and that then afterwards it'd be more. I'd feel really bad inside. I've
Mhm.
said this, I've upset this person. So I'd go my pendulum from there right the way over there. And then
Yep.
it'd be a case of, you know, I think I don't know, trying to be a bit stoic about it, but I thought stoic meant, or emotional regulation meant just squashing it down. Pretending
Yeah.
like everything's good, that you're all rosy. And
Uh-huh.
it was one then after the fact that became quite maladaptive. Whether that's ending up, a few too many pints, whether that's having arguments with people and all that, wherever it is, you're doing something to get happy because I felt bad. And then
Mhm.
it's, how do I feel good? you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I mean, do you
Yeah.
see much of this kind of thing in what you do?
I I do see a common theme of people talking about like kind of bottling everything up and not wanting to
Hmm.
share it because for some reason I feel like people, in from my generation, we were kind of taught not to talk about things. We needed to keep everything
Hmm.
inside. Don't display your emotions, just deal with it, suck it up and move on. And that's
Yeah.
not the way
Yeah.
that we should be dealing with things and handling situations. The
Hmm.
more we talk about things, it makes other people recognize that it's okay for them to talk about it too. And keeping
Hmm.
stuff bottled up inside, it's not healthy. It At
No.
some point it's going to explode, and that could be in all sorts of various different ways. Like you said, finding unhealthy ways to cope with the things that we're feeling, blowing up at someone who maybe not even the person who upset you to begin with, health
Yeah.
problems, because stress does cause health problems. So there's a whole bunch
Hmm.
of things that can happen as a result of us keeping things bottled up inside and not talking about things and not sharing things. So
Yeah.
it's important that we do that.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I think it's one, like you talked about, this our generation, that's a lot of, and I don't want to make it a gendered issue because that's too simplistic, but a lot of
Mhm.
guys that I end up speaking to, they haven't got the skills to do this very well.
No, they don't.
As I suppose, yeah, a lot of guys will, behave in certain ways or whatever when they're unhappy. And I've
Mhm.
spoken to many, and it's about, I suppose, wanting that connection, wanting to maybe reach out, but not really knowing how.
Mhm.
Also, I mean, there's things like, the mental block of vulnerability and such like,
Yeah.
but nobody taught us this stuff.
No, because it was a lot of like boys don't cry, you know?
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
and they like we all have tears, we all have feelings and emotions.
Hmm.
So everyone is supposed to cry. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So again, I definitely
Yeah.
think that that was also something that was ingrained in us, and that to cry or show emotions means you're weak. And as a man,
Hmm.
men don't want to be seen as weak, so they don't talk about their emotions. They don't cry. And if they
Yeah.
do, it's in private when no one can see them because they don't want to be seen as weak.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I like. And I suppose I'm getting, because of the age and stage that I'm at as well, guys that I'd be talking to, they might be, I don't know, kids have grown up and what have you, and it's like,
Mhm.
shit, I can't even relate to my wife anymore. Or, they've got divorced, possibly
Mhm.
because of not being able to relate quite well, and then think,
Uh-huh.
Wow, this is a big scary world that I'm not really equipped for. And I know that
Yeah.
sounds awful, but a 50-year-old guy going out into the world, I don't know, it's just, well, I suppose such is the modern world. Now, it's it's sort of encouraged that we talk about feelings, our mental health, what
Mhm.
we're struggling with. But if
Yeah.
you don't know how to do that, it can be quite a daunting space.
It can. And again, it's another reason why people, are afraid to talk about it because we haven't been taught the ways to
Hmm,
express those feelings. And we haven't been taught that it's okay. I mean, we are now. I think now, we are
hmm,
talking about it more and we are encouraging people and letting them know it's okay and giving
hmm.
them the vocabulary so that they can talk about it. But for a long, long, long time, we didn't have it. So there are a lot
Yeah.
of people in the world right now who don't know how to have those conversations because
Hmm.
it wasn't part of their world. And that's
No.
unfortunate because again,
Hmm.
we all have these things, we're all experiencing them. So,
Yeah.
for us to not talk about them, it's doing everyone a disservice.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I mean. I suppose that's my motivation behind doing this, and that's what I picked up from listening to your podcast. I mean, the ones I listened to this morning, it were two guys, and again, not to make it a gendered issue, but I suppose like attracts like in a certain way, and
Mm-hmm.
the way some of the responses came out, it were like, yeah, I understand what that's like because
Mm-hmm.
society, as you've mentioned, guys don't want to be seen as weak.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm sort of generalizing, so I don't want to be that guy,
Yeah.
but that's what does get pushed on us quite a lot.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
this is your role, so you have to adhere to these set of things that were
Mm-hmm.
invented. Who would know when you know by who would know who, and
Yeah.
now it's I find with men things are changing. Thankfully,
Yeah.
women are coming a lot more to the forefront or whatever. And there are a lot of guys I find scratching their heads thinking, well, shit, how do I get on board with this? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And for that's why I think, again, things like this, like the podcasting, you can find your flavor, you can find your community. And
Mm-hmm.
I think knowing that you're not the only one that's going through it and maybe getting a bit of coaching from afar kind of thing before you take the step into actually connecting somebody, I think
Yeah.
I think it's really valuable. But I would say, if I can, I mean, do you just coach women or do you work with men also?
I will coach anyone who needs to be coached.
Hmm,
There's no,
hmm,
I mean, obviously, I relate more to women, but
hmm.
like you said, and those interviews that you listen to, we are a lot alike.
Yeah.
Like, I think people in general are more alike than we realize.
Hmm,
Obviously, there are some obvious differences between men and
hmm.
women and, the experiences that we go through, but we are a lot alike in so
Yeah.
many ways. And that's, because we're human and we experience a lot of the same things in life. And
Hmm,
granted, we deal with these situations differently, but listening to other people talk about how they handled an experience can help
hmm.
someone who may not even recognize, like, oh my gosh, that's helpful to me. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the whole reason why I started doing what I'm doing.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's it. I mean, you've hit upon something there that I find there's more that connects us than divides us, and
Uh-huh.
because I think that's a big. I suppose for myself, trying to be unapologetically me, that well, so many years I've spent like looking for validation. I was just so much in the give a fucks about what other people thought about
Mm-hmm.
my decisions for my life that I would not do the best for me because it might
Right.
annoy somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I suppose now being unapologetically me, it's not going to win me everybody's friendship, but it doesn't need to. But if it
No.
wins me the right friendship, then
Mm-hmm.
surely that's a win. And
Yes.
that's where, yeah, I can't decipher that if you're giving me a story. If you're
Right.
doing, an act, and
Yeah.
what have you. So again, the unapologetically aspect really does resonate. So I mean, if I can jump back into, you said yourself, step one was coming out of your relationship. How did you build on those steps to become Jess of today?
I think it was a lot of recognizing that it's okay to be happy,
Hmm.
and again, to just put myself first. I think
Hmm.
that because those were things that were difficult for me to do prior
Hmm.
to that. So
Yeah.
everything just kind of fell into place after that. I don't know that there was like a step by step kind of journey that I took. It was
Hmm.
just sort of like things
Yeah.
started to happen for me once I started
Yeah.
choosing me. And,
Yeah.
that I'm sure that probably sounds very cliche, but that's the reality
Hmm.
of it. Once
Hmm.
you make a decision to do something and you stick to that decision,
Hmm.
things usually do fall into place the way they're supposed to fall into place.
Yeah. 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 No, I can. Well, I mean, like I said, I can relate because I've walked a similar myself. It was, I think you attract the right people when you behaving the right way, if you like. I don't know how else really to put it right now, but yeah, you start looking after you. I think you probably present. I don't know. You present happier. You present lighter, and people are drawn
Yeah,
to that more. I
yeah.
mean,
I
I.
had people.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to
Sorry,
cut
that.
you off.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
No, I was just gonna say that I there were people at my job who
Hmm.
knew me before this relationship ended, and they would come up to
Hmm.
me and they would say to me like, "You genuinely look happy." And like, again, I thought I looked happy before, but these are people
Yeah.
who recognized on the outside that I really
Hmm.
wasn't happy. And obviously they're not going to tell me like, "Jessica, you look miserable," but they were able to see the
Hmm.
difference. So if they could see it, obviously other people
Yeah.
could see it. And like you said, showing up as your full self and not pretending and being happy is going to attract more of that, whether it's people or energy or whatever the case may be, into your life. And it's just like
Hmm.
when, all sorts of bad things are happening and you're wondering, like, why is it always bad, bad, bad? Because if that's
Hmm.
what you're focusing on, that's what you're going to recognize and that's what you're going to see. If you focus
Hmm.
on the good stuff, you're
Yeah.
going to be more aware of it, and that's what's going to end up being attracted to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Because I mean, I think looking back now, I was not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was quite sour,
Yeah.
in the way I can't think of a better description at the moment, but it'd be things like, I don't know, somebody would say something innocuous, and I'd just like, "Meh." I'd just say something just spiteful. It was not necessarily
Mhm.
about that person, but
Yeah.
I was just in that headspace. I don't know, man.
Mhm.
I was pretty dark and what have you, and
Yeah.
it was one of the, I suppose, in myself. I like to think I'm a reasonably good guy. Yeah, we've all got our faults and flaws, but in the
Yeah.
main, I think I'm a net positive. And so
Mhm.
then afterwards, I'd end up getting into my own head about, I don't know, I'd said something nasty to somebody. And then, you start ruminating on that kind of thing. I didn't
Uh-huh.
have the skills to talk to people about what I was feeling about. So I just, it'd build. And then what I end up doing is like, I don't know, engineering some argument, you know, and then it all comes out in a torrent just because that's my release valve,
Yeah.
which, I mean, it's one of them, I suppose, you say, oh yeah, it was to make me feel better, but I didn't feel better. I felt worse for having been
Right.
such a prick. And it
Yep.
was that, yeah, where I was the architect of my own bad day because I
Mhm.
was focusing on, yeah, that which wasn't good.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was that. So I think once I started to, I don't even know, it's not even just sort of like, like you said, it's not some tangible thing to get happy.
Yeah.
But once I sort of shifted my focus a little bit, I started to feel happy. And it must have been, I don't know, people are going to always walk closer to a smile than they are to a scowl, aren't they? You know,
Yeah, of
and
course they are.
I think, yeah, I think there's that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I could be a miserable bastard when I want, but for myself, I think I'm a bit more self-aware now, and I know that I've got a bit more of a balance. You know, when I'm
Mhm.
fed up, I'm just like, right, I'm going to take myself over here, just read my book and leave me alone. But yeah, I think that looking after you is definitely, yeah, definitely a big catalyst for better things. But if I can ask,
Yeah.
say, somebody comes to you with whatever they've got going on and said, right, Jess, coach me, I want to be fabulous. You know, and again, I will say that jokingly because of my own previous like experiences going to a counsellor or a therapist, thinking that they were going to give me this tick sheet of things to get happy, and when they
Hmm.
didn't, I'm like, "Oh, he's a shit counsellor." Him, you know. So I mean, yeah, now you come through the other side of the looking glass kind of thing. You get that no, that's not actually how it works. But I
Hmm.
mean, you know, what how do you approach somebody on like, you know, a new person that's come to you, they've got stuff going on and they just want a bit of help or a bit of hope?
Yeah. I mean, the first if someone said came to me and said that, I would tell them that they're already fabulous. That would be the first
Mm.
thing that I would say because
Mm-hmm.
everyone is. Like you being you makes you fabulous. And again, I
Mm.
know that sounds like a tagline, but it's the truth because no matter what you're going through in life, there is nobody like you. There are
Mm.
qualities about you that someone else out there probably wishes that they had, even if you can't see
Yeah.
it that way. So, I
Yeah.
think that would be the first thing that I would say to a person, but I would also want to know from them like what is the outcome that they're looking for because at
Mm.
the end of the day, I can't make the changes for the other person. I can
Mm.
give them ideas and suggestions and guide them, down the
Mm.
path that they should walk down, but I can't make them do it. They have
Mm.
all the answers and tools inside of them. It's my job to help pull them out
Mm.
and get them to see that they
Yeah.
already have the answers and there's
Mm.
they can make the changes. They can do what they need to do to, become an even more fabulous version of themselves.
Mm. Alrighty. Yeah, no, so I mean, are you saying you're working like a solution focused kind of model? In that this day you're feeling like this, how do we move your scale up a step?
Yeah. And again, it can be something simple. Set
Mm.
one goal for the day that you want
Mm.
to accomplish. How did
Mm.
it feel to accomplish that
Mm.
goal? Because
Yeah.
again, sometimes doing something like that and just clapping for yourself and,
Yeah.
being proud of yourself, recognizing that you did something that you said you were going to do. It might seem small to some people, but doing little things like that every day,
Mm.
it's a gradual buildup. You build on it the next day. The next day, maybe you do two things, things
Mm.
like that. So it's really just recognizing your wins for the day. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's a huge one. For me, it is
Yeah.
anyway.
Mm. Yeah. I absolutely love that because that was one that, for myself, I think the biggest barrier was actually liking and then starting to love myself. You know,
Hmm.
that was behind a lot of it. I mean, I didn't really realize this at the time, because you can
Yeah.
you can put up a cocky front and what have you. And
Hmm.
again, I can talk a good game, but it's
Yeah.
whether I believed it or not is another story. And those
Yeah.
little things, like you say, coming through for myself, but also, you know, I'm saying I'm going to do this and then actually doing it.
Hmm.
There's, I mean, yeah, I'm guessing we do like some level of external validation in that somebody, you're not going to dislike it if somebody says, oh, well done, good job, whatever. But the
Yeah.
fact that I could say it to myself and know that I
Hmm.
wasn't lying, that
Yeah.
meant the world to me. And it
Yeah.
was those little things. That's where the magic happens for me. The,
Yeah.
like you say, a little thing. Like talking to somebody with depression, all right,
Hmm.
well, get out of bed, do a thing, and then go back to bed if you want. Then you've done a thing. It's
Right.
whatever it is, that's your
Right.
Everest for today. And
Yeah.
that I think those first steps to actually loving yourself,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I think I love to hear from people. Those
Yeah.
stories about, I think, just seeing the joy on somebody's face that they've done something right. It
Yeah.
it keeps me doing the work that I'm doing. So I mean,
Absolutely.
you your thing you say is about overcoming things.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you to talk about that? I mean, what does that look like in and of itself?
So, I mean, the answer to that question is going to be different for everyone because,
Hmm.
my overcoming may look different than what someone else's overcoming will look like.
Yeah.
But basically, it's just to demonstrate to people that you can get through it, you can come out on the other side. And I do that
Hmm.
by, on my podcast, by talking to people who have been through. I
Hmm.
mean, I have a lot of episodes that are on the same topics, and it's different
Hmm.
people talking about their experiences with those topics. Because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, someone might listen to one episode and they're like, well, that didn't resonate with me at all. But they could listen to another episode about the same
Hmm.
topic and be like, oh my gosh, this person is
Yeah.
saying exactly what I'm feeling. And,
Hmm.
sometimes all it takes is that one thing from that one person for someone to recognize I'm not alone, because we're
Hmm.
never alone. A lot of us,
Yeah.
I think that we're going through things that no one else has ever experienced, and that's not the
Hmm.
case. And
Yeah.
again, sharing those stories on my podcast is giving hope to people to recognize that they can overcome whatever they're going
Hmm.
through. And maybe
Hmm.
it's just by listening to a podcast and knowing they're not alone. That could be
Yeah.
enough for them to be like, okay, I can get
Hmm.
through this, whatever getting through this looks like to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's well. Yeah. That's what I'm saying, and that's what listening to your episodes, and it comes across to me as though you're invested in the conversation. You're not rolling out a few lines here and there. You're actually going through that moment with somebody as they're talking, and that I think is a big part. And I'll tie it back to myself shamelessly, but I'm not everybody's flavour. I get that,
Yeah.
but I don't need to be. But if
Nope.
one person can pick up on a conversation I have with somebody and think, yeah, I know what that guy were going through. Wow,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it does. It
Yeah.
brings that sort of, yeah, I'm not as alone. I'm not as isolated. I don't feel, I don't know, as embarrassed or shameful
Mm-hmm.
or whatever the feels are that are coming through from it. And that was
Yeah.
always my intention with the podcast and with the work that I do, in that, yeah, just opening it up and modeling a conversation that we can do this. And
Yeah.
that's what I'll take as a win. It's
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
The
I mean,
same goes to me.
yeah, and that's what I say. It comes across in your podcast. Like again, the ones I listened to today with two guys, but it's not a gendered issue. It is generally
Right.
or genuinely a chat between two people, and it
Mm-hmm.
goes wherever it goes, and stuff comes up,
Yeah.
and hearing, yeah, I'm not the only one who, I don't know, took the drugs and fucked up one night or whatever it is, to use one
Yep.
example. It's
Uh-huh.
we've all got things in the backstory that we're all not that proud of.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know, perhaps bringing it into the light just takes away some of its power.
Yeah. And I also think too that talking about those things and recognizing that it doesn't make someone a bad person because they made a mistake. Because again, a lot of
Hmm.
us think sometimes when we mess up that like we're tarnished for the rest of our lives, and that's not the
Yeah.
case. But
Hmm.
also too knowing that you can learn from those
Hmm.
mistakes. Like we're like going back to what we were talking about earlier and constantly learning. Like if you are learning from your mistakes, is it
Hmm.
really a bad thing that you made that mistake then? Because I know I've made too many mistakes to count in my life, but
Hmm.
I wouldn't be the person that I am today. I wouldn't have the knowledge that I have today if I didn't
Hmm.
go through all of the experiences that I did, and if I didn't mess up like I did along the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Whereas in the past, I was ashamed of everything that I messed up on. Whereas
Uh-huh.
now, I feel they were the biggest lessons for me. They're the ones that
Absolutely.
stick with you because you're like, nah, I don't want that again. You know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
well, there it is. And yeah, that's a big part. So, I mean, if I can ask you as well, as part of the services you offer, you do something called fearless discovery. Now, I'm dying to know, what does that involve? What does that look like?
What is it? I didn't
Fearless discovery.
Fearless discovery. So that is it's just figuring out who you are and not being afraid of that. Because again, a lot
Hmm.
of times we show up as versions of ourselves that aren't really who we are. And I think we tend
Hmm.
to be afraid of the full versions of who we are because
Hmm.
we're afraid of what the outside world is going to think. And there's
Yeah.
power in discovering who you are inside and really
Hmm.
owning that. Because again, like we were talking about before too, showing up in the world as
Hmm.
the person that you are, not the person you're pretending to be, is what's going
Hmm.
to attract the people to you who are meant to be in your life.
Hmm. Yeah. I love that. I think that's something that I don't know. I wish I'd have had somebody say similar things to me early on. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, like you rightly said as well. I mean, I can look at my life and think, oh, this is not great, that's not great. But overall, I'm happy with it. So
Yeah.
I can't really look back with too much sadness at, the shit that went on. But I do,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would have liked somebody to say, you know what, man, you're all right as you are.
Yeah.
You don't have to be
Yeah.
this guy, you know.
Right.
And so if we can take that next step, it says the courageous leap. How
Mm-hmm.
how would that look from your perspective to somebody who's almost there, who's getting forward?
I think so. Again, for me, what that means is doing the things that scare you,
Mm,
which might be showing up as that full version of yourself. That's scary for some
mm,
people. It's
mm,
scary to take that
yeah.
mask off and be who they are. And my motto in life lately is, if it's scary, I have to do it. There's a reason, like
Mm,
it's a test for me almost. Like, oh, that makes my
yeah.
stomach, go into knots. I've got to
Mm,
do it. And I think, when we're afraid to do something, it's almost like a challenge from the universe.
mm,
And it wouldn't be challenging us if we couldn't do it. Taking that
mm,
leap, whatever the leap is, because it's different for everybody. But
mm,
taking that leap really is, it's what's going to catapult you into the next version of yourself, the next
mm,
chapter of your life. And it is going to be scary sometimes. It's not always going to be fun, but
yeah.
it's always worth it.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it reminds me, I read something, I can't even remember when, but the quote stuck with me because it was so relatable. And this woman, she said, I grieve the experiences I never felt because of low self-esteem. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's something that fits quite well with that, in that, again, I can only use my own example, but despite my cocksure attitude, I did have very, very low self esteem. And I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
try these things because either I was, afraid of doing them in the first place, whatever they were, but more
Mm-hmm.
pertinently, I was afraid of not being good at them, or I suppose, to use another phrase, not being good enough, which is
Yeah,
quite a multi-layered thing in and of itself. So in a
it is.
similar
Yeah.
way, now, I say yes to pretty much everything as long as I've got the
Yeah.
time and space. Hang
Yep.
gliding,
Yep.
sign me up.
Yes.
Tasting menus, sign me up. Whatever it is, you know what I mean? Things where
Yeah.
normally previously I'd shy away from because
Mm-hmm.
the bigger fear was, to my mind, looking like an idiot, losing face.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah, that couldn't happen ever. Whereas
Hmm.
now, yeah, I'm just not asked,
Yeah.
like, oh, recently, a few years ago, my thing is I took up surfing. And
Oh, cool.
oh, when you watch the videos and what have you, it looks awesome. They make it look so easy. I'll be honest, even 3 years in, I'm shit at it. But I love it. And I don't mind. I've got better than I was, yeah. But to be
Uh-huh.
honest, it's not the reaching of a standard that that is even on my radar anymore. It's
Yeah.
it's being out there, it's enjoying it, it's actually doing it and just
Yeah.
yeah, splashing about in the sea. That's
Yeah.
and that's what I use as a big metaphor for, I suppose how far I feel I've come. Because at one
Hmm.
point in my life, I would have never have done that, and I would have said, no, that's crap. That is for idiots, whatever it is, because I was too
Yeah.
scared to have a go myself.
Yeah. And I think too, it's an important lesson in like a lot of the times after we do something that we were scared or nervous to do,
Hmm.
it turns out that it wasn't as bad as we thought it was
Yeah.
going to be. So a lot of the
Hmm.
times, like we are the one, we talk ourselves out of so much because of the
Yeah.
ideas and thoughts and perceptions that we have in our own heads.
Yeah.
Whereas if we just did it
Hmm.
after, you're like, it wasn't even that bad. Like,
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean the other thing I find from that is I was so focused on other people watching me and they're going to laugh when I fall over. Other people don't give a shit. They're more bothered in what
Yeah,
they're doing. They're not paying attention to what
right.
I'm doing. But it,
Yep.
it just took so long to break out of that mindset and just
Uh-huh.
get on with enjoying life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I saw a quote
What?
somewhere. I don't remember who said it, but it was
Mm.
something along the lines of like if you do something, silly and you
Mm.
laugh at yourself first, other
Mm.
people can't laugh at you because they're then laughing with you. And I love that because it's so true.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong with laughing. I laugh at myself all the time. I do dumb stuff all the time and I'm like I'm just going to laugh about it because this is just, this
Yeah.
is who I am. This is what I do. And again, if I'm laughing at myself, you're not laughing at me, you're laughing with me. And there's a difference
Yeah.
between those two things.
That's right. And I think in the end of it, is it that big a deal? You know what I mean? If I stand up on my surfboard and fall into the water, does it matter?
Right.
You know?
Right. It's not the end of the
Nobody.
world.
That's it. And this one, like, oh, I got a lot of this. Have you ever read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck? Mark Manson.
I know the book, but I have not
Yeah.
read it.
Well, this is one where it puts me in mind of that because the basic premise is we give a shit about all of these little things, but you've only got
Uh-huh.
so much bandwidth. So,
Yeah.
despite the language in the title and what have you, it's what do you actually give a fuck about? Give attention to
Uh-huh.
that. The rest of
Yep.
it, it's all white noise. It's external
Yeah.
nonsense that you don't need. And
Absolutely.
once I, sort of had that, and it's such a simple phrase and such a simple, way of thinking that
Mm-hmm.
why didn't I think about this before? So that's
Yeah.
one I do come back to quite a lot from my self-help book phase, admittedly. But if I'm starting
Uh-huh.
to get wound up about something, nothing, somebody cuts me off in traffic, or I don't know, somebody jumps in a queue or whatever, I mean, does it really matter? Do I really
Right.
give a fuck about this enough for
Right.
it to wind me up? Why am I letting
Yep.
that impact my good day with
Mm-hmm.
with this
Yeah.
nonsense? I
Yep.
don't know.
Yep.
Well, I wanted to ask, I mean, you mentioned earlier as well, you work with the homeless community. Now, I
Yes.
also had a phrase working with, chronically homeless around here using the housing
Uh-huh.
first model. Now, I mean, what does that look like for you? I mean, this is going to put another level of context into your work and how you view things.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting job to do. It's very,
Mm,
you know, it's hard work because you see a lot of people
mm,
they're at their worst. They're in a very difficult
mm,
situation with nowhere to go. A lot of them have children and it's
mm,
difficult here in my area. We have a huge homelessness population and
mm,
it's difficult work, to see people and you want to help. There's so much you want to
mm,
do, but we don't always have all of the answers. And
mm,
working with this population, it definitely it reminds you what's important in life. And
mm,
again, bringing it back to the gratitude situation, there are people who are in those situations and they still find things to be grateful for. It's not always easy for them to do,
mm,
but even in situations like that, I have conversations with people and they'll say to me, because we shelter them in our shelters here in the
mm.
area, and it's at least I have a roof over my head. And
Yeah.
again, in the most difficult of situations, they're still able to find something, to be grateful for. And
Mm,
it's an important reminder about the things that we all take for granted in life.
mm.
It puts things in perspective for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one. I mean, I think when I was working with that community and what have you, I was not a new grad, but not far off the blocks as regards, I was quite an
Uh-huh.
idealistic young social worker and whatnot. I wanted to do all the things, and
Hmm.
yeah, that was so hard at first for me because I couldn't give all the answers, the solutions. I couldn't
Right.
I couldn't make it right. I couldn't do, and
Yeah.
maybe I was, I had a few things to learn. I was looking at it the wrong way. But yeah, like you pointed out then, the little moments of gratitude, like I'd sit down and talk with, some of these people and just get a bit of a story. At first, when I started, it'd be more, pointed questions. I'm looking to find
Uh-huh.
information. I want to know this, I want to know that.
Yeah.
But then I
Yeah.
found just sitting having a conversation with somebody and getting to know them on
Yeah.
that more granular level. I
Yeah.
I learnt so much more in that than anything out of any textbook.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's the humanity that shines
Hmm.
through for me. And in conversations like this, that's what
Yeah.
I stick with and that I enjoy. I got into this work wanting to do these things, but
Hmm.
now I suppose it's taken me in a different direction. It's
Yeah.
that connection, that meeting, that I suppose I don't know, not necessarily trying to build somebody up, but trying to build somebody up in a way that I
Yeah.
suppose, like you said, we've all got our stuff going on, we've all got our
Hmm.
things, and yeah, I feel that's sort of the way I'm taking things now. I
Yeah.
I do like that aspect, and that's unapologetically keeps coming back to me as a word.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I want to know the real you. I want to know, you
Yeah.
know, what's going on for you, what you're
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
So, well, if I can ask then, as we're coming towards the end, what's next for you? What are your next steps? What are you getting involved in the future?
Right now I am actually working on a book.
Wow.
So that's the next thing that's coming.
Okay.
It's it's about my experience with grief and losing my sister.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of
Mm.
the real unapologetic parts of grief. I think
Yeah.
we a lot of times we try to sugarcoat what our grief journey is going to look like, and it's
Mm.
not a pretty journey. It's not
No.
linear. There's no step
Mm.
by step guide to
Mm.
what grieving looks like. It's different for everyone.
Mm.
Grief is sneaky. It has its own agenda that
Mm.
you have no say in. And
Mm.
I wanted to share that experience and also offer some tips for people who
Mm.
may be grieving or just who may be dealing with a difficult situation in general. How
Mm.
to move through the emotions of all of the things that they're feeling, and you
Yeah.
know get through it. I mean, obviously
Mm.
grieving is something that never ends, so you're not ever going to,
Mm.
it's never going to go away. It's with you
Yeah.
forever. But there are ways that you can move through life while you're grieving. And I
Mm.
think that, it's important to talk about those things as well. So
Yeah.
the book is coming, which, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited about it. I've never written a book before, so this is a first for
Mm.
me. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to get that out into the world for everyone to read as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. No, that's really exciting. I love that. This, I suppose you get into a certain level of work and it can go off in so many directions. But yeah, what
Huh?
you're talking about, I do think is so valuable, especially with something like grief,
Hmm.
because there is no one model. One person reacts one way, one the other. There's no, well, you should be doing this. And
Right.
I think hearing from somebody, and it's not even a case of, all right, I did this, so you have to do da 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 da. It's this is what
Yeah.
happened to me, and I suppose you can take from it, what
Yeah.
works for you, what doesn't, and it's not you saying this is how to grieve. This is
Right.
this is what worked for me, or this is no, not even
Yeah.
what works. That's wrong. This is what happened, and
Yeah.
I hope you can
Yeah.
find something from it. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think these are the little things that I suppose the world needs more of, and it's good that you can find these communities, these conversations now in a way that we
Mhm.
couldn't,
Yeah.
when we were younger, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I want to
Yeah.
say, a big thank you for talking with me today, and for work you're putting out in the world. Like I said, I mean, in the lead up to this episode, I've listened to your podcast. I've had a look at what you do online and what all these kind of things, and yeah, I just think the world needs more of it. So yeah, thank you for talking so openly with me, and thank you for just telling me about you. Really,
Yeah. Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
no, it's an absolute pleasure. And if I can thank you out there for listening, as always, I really do appreciate your support and you keep coming back. So if you can please look out for me on Instagram and TikTok under Social Harmony Talk, Facebook under Social Harmony Time to Talk, and this morning I've actually been setting up a YouTube channel called Social Harmony Time to Talk. So please keep your eyes and your ears peeled for that. If you could like, follow, share on those platforms, I would greatly appreciate it. And I'll continue to put out a new episode every Monday at 6 p.m. New Zealand time on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So again, if you could follow, like, share and comment across those, mean the world to me. If you want to join me for an upcoming conversation, please get in touch, flick me a message or whatever, and I'll be in touch. We can sort something out. But for now, go well, look after yourself, keep talking. Thank you very much for listening.